I've been generally bearish on the markets again, into late last year and so forth. And it just was a matter of looking at the Federal Reserve and saying, okay, the Fed pushed the markets up with all this quantitative easing, printing money, ballooning their balance sheet higher and higher. And then towards the end of 2021, they finally said, okay, listen, we have to cut back on this. Inflation is out of control. We need to stop this. We have to taper. We have to raise interest rates. And they even said we have to start lowering our balance sheet, getting rid of our balance sheet. So that to me was a negative signal, right? You could argue that you could have ridden the Federal Reserve and the money printing up. Well, it works in the reverse now. So if we look at the markets here on the charts, right, this is such a cool thing, but you can see it in the charts where early in this channel that goes back to basically the beginning of COVID, back to May of 2020, you had this up move here, and then you touched the lower trend line here and lower trend line here. Look at how much distance between those lines there was. That was telling you that the trend was so strong. And if you look at the high end, it was always up here against the upper areas here, and all along here, right? Well, look at what happened starting in November when the Fed started to talk about tapering. You started to see it flatten out. And look at how many times you started to hit this lower trend line. And then lo and behold, check this out, right? Look at what just happened yesterday. You broke the channel down upsloping trend line. So to me, this is something that's very concerning for the overall stock market. You can argue that the trend is potentially in the process of breaking or has broken. And that means that, yes, you're going to get big bounces, but I think there's quite a bit more downside in this market to come. We got the chart of gold here. Gold's having an awesome day today. It hasn't broken out of its short-term wedge just yet, but it is certainly getting close. But again, I just love charts like this. I mean, these are the things that I go to bed and dream about at night in terms of the trading setups that I look for. I look for these massive moves that take place over the course. And with gold, it started in 2018. It went all the way to 2020. Price on gold went up about 80% between that period. Now, what happens again is the consolidation phase. And people will say, oh, well, gold's not performing. It hasn't done anything for a year plus. That's correct.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
But it needed to do that to kind of consolidate and get ready for the next breakout. And all you need is this little break here. And you can see the big move up today in gold getting closer and closer to that trend line. You break through that. You go all the way up to this trend line here, which is the double top. Sorry for the massive line there. But ultimately, that's where you're headed. And then eventually you should go even higher. So I think that, again, easily it's one of my, and listen, I could be wrong, right? There's always that chance, but it's one of my favorite plays of the year is to be long gold and gold miners. So Bitcoin's been struggling. Now, there's a reason why it's hovering just around 40,000 or why it's bouncing off 40,000. I think every investor, whether you're into charts or not, you need to know this stuff. So take a look at this trend line, right? If I just start from the beginning of the move and connect it right through this low here, look at where that line goes. It goes right to where we currently are hovering. In addition, if you take this little line here and stretch it across, it matches right there as well. And again, just to be clear, when we had this big dump, notice how price went to 40,000, pulled back, went to 40,000, pulled back, and then went to 40,000 and finally broke out here. So that tells you that there's a level there that needs to be monitored, and that's exactly where we've kind of hovered. Having said that, again, shorter term, I think you could get a small bounce in Bitcoin, maybe back to 46,000 or so. But I do think eventually this level breaks as the markets go lower. And you can see it right now, folks. A lot of people kind of were skeptical when I said a deleveraging in the market would affect Bitcoin. But you can absolutely see it. Almost every day the stock market gets hit, you see Bitcoin dropping pretty precipitously as well. And again, look at the performance of Bitcoin, down 30, 40% this year, or really just since October, I should say. And the stock market's only corrected about 10%. So if the stock market does another 10%, where does that put Bitcoin? I have it priced in to go sub 20,000 before all is said and done.
Okay, hold up, sub 20,000. So we were talking about 20,000. Now you're talking about sub 20,000. What changed for you?
Yeah, so it's just looking at the metrics, the performance of Bitcoin, and looking. And listen, I don't necessarily know if it's 19,000 or 17,000 or somewhere in there, but I do think it at least pierces 20,000. I don't think much below that. I'll be a big buyer as soon as we get close to 20,000 and then all the way below that, because I remain a long-term huge bull. I love what we're seeing with NFTs, even though I think NFTs are a bubble. I think there's a future there after it bursts. And I think that, again, the blockchain getting involved with so many big companies, and you have Block now, Square changing its name, and Jack Dorsey getting more and more involved. And obviously we know Elon Musk and some of these other players, but there is a big future for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You just have to see a washout. The Fed created this bubble in assets, including cryptocurrency and the stock market. There has to be a washout. And what I always want to stress to investors is that there's always places to invest. So I don't like the overall indexes like the NASDAQ, the S&P 500. I don't like the cryptos right now for a longer term trade. I don't like real estate because interest rates are moving up and prices have gone up too far too fast. But there are stocks to get involved in here.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dan.